Hi guys, this is Zach from Watches on You, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Grand Seiko SBGA229 Spring Drive dive watch. Now, this is one of the first Grand Seikos that we've reviewed. We did a pre-owned one in the past, but this is actually our first brand new one, as JB Hudson, the jeweler one of the main jewelers that provides us with watches to review, is now an authorized retailer of all Grand Seiko watches. So we're going to be including many more of these on the channel. So now moving into this piece. So right away, I'm going to actually go over this watch's case. So the case is a 44.2 millimeter stainless steel case. Now, the case is one of the ways that this watch really distinguishes itself from a regular Seiko watch, being that this is a Grand Seiko, so it should be a bit better, especially since the price is about 60 times what some of the regular Seiko watches are. So this watch, the finishing on it is absolutely spectacular. You have beautiful polishing on the sides of the case, and you can see that it is just a clean mirror. I mean, you can see the reflection of the camera in it perfectly. It just looks very, very nice. There's really no blemishes that I have found in it. The brushing as well lines up perfectly. The light goes off of it very, very nicely. It shines very bright in the light, and it just looks great. Now, one of the other things I like about this watch's case is that they didn't just simply go make a regular dive watch case, just some cutout crown guards and a flat side here polished. They actually did put some nice curves into it, so you can see that it actually has almost this very large kind of bevel in the lug there that's polished and on the other side, and that just provides another element to this watch that I really like. I also like how the side of the case it's not like it's just completely flat. There's a little bit of a curve there. Very, very nice. Now, also on the bezel, the teeth here are about, I'd say, perfect in how grippy they are. They're not necessarily, going to catch or kind of hurt your fingers when you're using it, but you're definitely not going to slip when you bear down on it. And when you're wearing diving gloves, this should be no problem, the operation. Now, it's got 120 click bezel, and the action of it is, I'd say, almost to a Rolex Submariner level. I wouldn't say it's quite there. It feels still a little bit more clicky, but the action is very, very nice. It's very smooth, and definitely no problems there. The lockup is absolutely perfect, and you get a nice ceramic bezel insert, which is great. So, you also get this nice date window at 3 o'clock and a power reserve function on the dial as well. And being that this watch comes in at a price of $6,000, that actually is great value for money, as if you're spending this money on, I'd say one of its main rivals is the Rolex Submariner date, and that's going to be over $8,000 new. So this watch giving you also the addition of a power reserve and having this beautiful ceramic insert and action of the bezel, it really provides a good value that the Rolex may not be as good for. Now, the dial of this piece, continuing with the dial, the one thing if I could say anything bad about the dial, I'd say that it's a bit boring. There are a lot of black dial dive watches out there with round indices, and I wish they would have, made it a little bit more interesting than what they did. That's really the only thing I could hit against it. It looks great, though. You get this nice matte black. The indices are also very nice, very bright white. Lume is good as well, and the hands are also very, very broad, and you would really have no trouble reading those underwater. Now, you also get a nice lume pip up at 12 o'clock, so the bezel will be very easy to read underwater, and you really should have no legibility issues on this watch whatsoever. Everything is very, very easy to read. So, one other thing about this watch is that it has a 200-meter water resistance. Now, that's perfect for diving. You're really never going to end up diving deeper than that, but I would wish that they maybe did a 300 meter, as like the Seiko SKX 007, that has a 200 meter water resistance, and that watch is like under $300. So I wish that they would have bumped it up to 300 meters just to kind of catch up with some of the other luxury brand dive watches. No, that's really not going to happen in everyday life. You're never going to be diving down to 200 meters. Almost no one does, unless you're a big saturation diver, maybe a deep sea welder. But other than that, it really shouldn't be an issue. I just wish they would have bumped it up a little bit from their other cheaper Seiko models, but that's a little bit of a nitpick on this piece and doesn't really take away from the overall quality. So now let's go back to the bracelet. So the clasp on this piece is very, very nice. Now, I wish they would have made the cover to it a little bit more kind of beefy like the Rolex Submariner is, where it's a bit thicker metal. It's basically just pressed metal here. Now, the bars here are nice. The folding action is very, very nice. Those are thick bars. But I wish they would have made this clasp a little bit. It almost kind of looks similar to their cheaper watches, but the finishing on it is much better, and it does feel nicer than those watches for sure. I just wish they would have made a little bit beefier here. Now, what's also nice about this piece is you do get a nice diver's extension. Now, this is a very good feature because it's just, if you're putting on dive suit, it's easy to extend it. All you have to do is lift up that little tab right there, and then you can pull it out. Now, what's actually interesting about this one is it's a ratcheting diver's extension, so it won't pull out anymore after you let that down, but it can go in. So that's nice because you don't really have to play around it that much. You basically, to put it on, the easiest way I think would be extend it all the way out once you put it over your dive suit, and then just ratchet it to whatever you need, almost kind of like a handcuff action where they ratchet down to fit your wrist. So I think that's a nice feature. And also, if you have a very, very large wrist, you could always just wear it with that. It might not be that, I don't know how comfortable that would be on bare skin there, but it seems like that would actually work okay. So one other thing, though, is I will say that if you don't have gloves on, that little metal piece can be quite sharp and really dig into your finger. Now, that's not necessarily a finished thing. They did polish it and everything, but I would say be a little careful when you're manipulating it. Oh, and I actually just pinched my glove there. Sorry. There we go. So now let's pop that back in. But now let's move on to a wrist shot. Take my glove off there. So, on the wrist, I mean, this watch, it feels like a sports watch. It feels absolutely fantastic. I would say its wear is comparable to a Submariner. It does wear larger because it's a 44 millimeter case versus a 40. So, but I'd say the overall kind of feel, I don't really feel any hair pinching. There's really no problems there. The bracelet feels nice on the wrist. And again, the comfort-wise, there really isn't a big problem. I have a 7-inch wrist for reference, so if you have a really small wrist, I would say this might be a bit big for you, but the 44 millimeter case actually doesn't wear quite as large as I thought it would. It does feel quite nice on the wrist. Now, the clasp also feels perfectly fine on the wrist. Actually, I just got a little hair pinch on the inside of there, but there's really no problems there. Again, I wish they would have made it a little bit more beefy just to make it distance itself that much more from its I guess cheaper counterparts in the regular Seikos, but overall feels nice on the wrist. So, actually, one other thing I would like to mention about this watch is that I haven't talked about yet is the spring drive movement. So Seiko's spring drive movement, is really their kind of special movement that they developed. And it's kind of it's kind of a little controversial in the watch world, as some people say it's too close to quartz and that everyone wants mechanical, versus some people saying that it's a revolutionary movement and all watches should use this technology. So I'm just going to explain how it works. So what you do is you have an automatic rotor back there. It will wind by itself, and you have a mainspring, and you have timing wheels. You have everything that a mechanical movement has except the escapement. So instead of using a regular balance wheel escapement that just ticks back and forth, you actually get special wheels that are acted upon by magnets, by electromagnets that are actually powered, kind of created by the movement, and a quartz crystal in there regulates them. So the quartz crystal is really getting electrical power from the wheels moving around, so it basically generates its own electricity from the mainspring that then powers a quartz crystal, which then regulates the wheels in the movement to get the correct time. Now, what this provides really all the advantages of mechanical movement, and how you're going to be able to you're never really going to have to worry about replacing batteries, nothing like that, and you can wind it by hand. But you get almost the accuracy of a quartz watch, because this watch has it has a regulation of plus minus 15 seconds a month, which is very, very good, because you actually break that down, that's around plus minus half a second a day, which is better than really I think all mechanical watches I have heard of personally, but you still get the functionality of a mechanical movement. So the controversy here really is this a truly revolutionary design movement and very high quality and I'd say up to standards of mechanical movement, or is it more like a quartz movement where there is that, I guess, handmade kind of feel out of the movement? So I'm not going to make that decision for you. Kind of take it as whatever you think. It does provide some advantages, but some people think because it's not a full mechanical, it doesn't deserve the prestige that some people give it. So take it or leave it. But so overall, this watch is available here brand new for $6,000, and I think that actually is a great value. As comparing this just to the Rolex Submariner here, the Rolex Submariner is over $8,000. Now there are I would say it doesn't feel as high quality as that. I said you don't get as high quality of a clasp on this watch or as great a dive resistance, but is that worth the price is the question. Is that worth the over $2,000 premium above this watch? Personally, I don't really think so. Now, some people might dismiss this watch right away just because it's a Grand Seiko and they don't like how it has Seiko in the name. But I really think that that's kind of shallow decision, as it goes a lot deeper than that. They really, really do put a lot of effort in upping the quality of this piece. The movement, I mean, I wish it had a clear case back because they are finished absolutely spectacularly. All the case finishing is great. You get the ceramic bezel. So really, this watch does provide a great value, and I'd say it's definitely worth its price that they put it at. Putting this over a Rolex Submariner, it obviously doesn't have a history of a Submariner, but if you're just looking for a dive watch that you can wear every day and you don't really care about brand, I'd say that this would provide better value for money, as it really can do anything that the Submariner would ever be able to do, and it's finished absolutely spectacularly. So, thank you guys for watching this video. Remember to like, subscribe, and share.